When four fake HOA cops showed up in tactical gear to tow my truck, they didn't realize whose driveway they'd stepped into. I wasn't some random homeowner. I was the guy who used to breach doors for a living. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. My name's Gavin Cole, 42, retired SWAT breacher, 15 years on the team. I've kicked down over 200 doors, rescued hostages, and stared down more muzzles than I care to count. I retired not because I had to, but because one morning I realized I'd already seen enough. I moved to Oak Ridge Meadows, a quiet stretch outside San Marcos, Texas. A clean slate. My days were slow, my coffee black, my peace sacred. I rebuilt things that stayed fixed: fences, tools, old engines, not broken men or busted doors. Then came the HOA. At first, I didn't care much for their flyers, community guidelines, aesthetic standards, approved vehicle types. Bureaucratic nonsense, I thought. But then I met Patricia Mallard, the self-appointed HOA president, pearls, clipboard, and the attitude of a woman who thought her word outranked city law. She didn't like my black Ford F-250, said it was too aggressive looking for a family-oriented environment. I laughed it off until she started leaving violation notices taped to my windshield. The truck wasn't some monster build, no oversized tires, no illegal tint, no noise violations, just clean steel, polished chrome, and a life of discipline behind the wheel. But to Patricia, it was rebellion, something she couldn't control. Last week, I found a bright yellow citation stuck under my wiper. Vehicle subject to tow. HOA Regulation 8.3A. Improper curb alignment. Improper alignment. The bumper was maybe an inch over the curb. An inch. But I knew what this was. It wasn't about measurements. It was about ego. That evening, I walked down to the community hall to settle things. Patricia sat at a folding table flanked by two board members. One accountant, one landscaper pretending to be a lawyer. "Mr. Cole," she started, not even looking up, "your vehicle violates our visual harmony code." "Visual harmony?" I repeated. "My truck's legal, registered, parked on public curb space. The board has discretion," she said sharply. "You've received multiple complaints." "From who?" I asked. She smiled. "That's confidential." That's when I realized she didn't care about fairness, just control. I left without another word. I'd seen that look before, the one on a suspect who thought they were untouchable right before the door came down. 2 mornings later, the sound of chains and hydraulics woke me up. It wasn't the garbage truck. When I looked through the window, my stomach went cold. A tow truck was angled across my driveway. 4 men in black tactical gear stood around it. Bold white letters across their chests read, HOA cop. Not police, not security, just 3 letters that were about to cost them everything. They were already hooking chains to my rear axle when I stepped outside. No warning, no notice, just the low growl of hydraulics and 4 men pretending to be law enforcement. They wore black vests with white letters that read HOA cop. Their gear looked halfway professional. Tactical boots, duty belts, even cheap body cams clipped on their chests. But to me, it was a costume. "Morning, fellas," I said calmly, coffee in hand. "You boys got a warrant to touch that truck?" One of them, a tall guy with a shaved head and mirrored glasses, turned around. "Sir, step back. This vehicle's being towed for community violations." "Community violations?" I smirked. "That's a new one. Didn't know the HOA got federal jurisdiction." The driver kept his head down, pretending not to hear. The shorter man on his left spoke next. "We're authorized by the Oak Ridge HOA board. It's official business." I chuckled, then set the mug on the hood. "Official business means paperwork, not cosplay. So let's see your ID, all 4 of you." No one moved. That's when I noticed their sidearms. Not airsofts, real handguns, unregistered, with the serial numbers scratched off. That changed everything. I took one slow step forward. My voice dropped. "You're carrying weapons while impersonating police. You know that's a Class B felony, right?" The man with the shaved head laughed. "Big talk, old man. Step aside before we arrest you." "Arrest me?" I tilted my head. "Buddy, you can't even spell probable cause." He took a step closer, hand twitching near his belt. I could see the tremor. Adrenaline, fear, maybe both. I'd seen that look on suspects seconds before a bad decision. "Tell you what," I said quietly. "You touch that tow lever and I'll consider you armed and threatening. Then we'll do things the old way." He sneered. "And what way is that?" I smiled. "The way I learned kicking in cartel doors." That's when the first one moved. Quick draw, sloppy stance, bad trigger discipline. But 15 years of muscle memory took over. I deflected his wrist, pivoted, and slammed his arm against the hood until the pistol clattered across the pavement. The second guy lunged. I drove my elbow into his throat, then swept his leg out from under him. He hit the ground, gasping. The other two froze, caught between shock and pride. "You still want to play cop?" I asked, stepping between them. They hesitated, then bolted for the tow truck. But before they could climb in, I was already there. One knee strike, one open hand stunned to the jaw, both men down, dazed and disarmed. The street was quiet again except for their groans. My coffee hadn't even cooled. I grabbed my phone, snapped photos of their faces, their fake badges, their plates, everything. Then I called the sheriff's department directly. When the dispatcher asked my name, I said simply, "Tell Deputy Harris this is Cole." Got 4 impersonators detained in my driveway. There was a pause, then a sharp, "On our way." And that's when the real cops showed up. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe, because the story is only going to get better. By the time the patrol cars rolled in, the morning sun had started cutting through the fog. 2 cruisers, lights flashing, doors swinging open fast. The deputies stepped out with hands on their holsters until they saw me, standing calm, 4 suspects face down on the pavement, their fake HOA cop gear scattered around them like cheap Halloween props. "Cole?" one of the deputies called out. "What the hell happened here?" "Attempted vehicle theft," I said, nodding toward the truck. "These guys claim the HOA sent them. They're carrying real weapons, all unregistered." The deputy's eyes widened. He crouched beside one of the pistols, then looked at the serial number, scratched. "Yep, felony right there." Another deputy cuffed the first man I'd taken down, the shaved head leader. "You have the right to remain silent," he began, voice clipped and steady. The man muttered, "We were just doing what Patricia told us." That name snapped my attention. Patricia Moore, the HOA president. She'd been itching for payback since I stopped her neighborhood patrol nonsense a month earlier. I'd told her flat out she had no authority to enforce curfews, fines, or towing beyond city code. Apparently, she decided to get creative. "Deputy," I said, "you might want to put out a warrant for Patricia Moore. These guys just implicated her in organized impersonation and attempted theft." He nodded, already calling it in. Minutes later, Patricia herself came flying down the street, her Lexus screeching to a stop beside the cruisers. She jumped out, shouting, "You can't arrest them! They were performing HOA security operations." The deputy turned toward her. "Ma'am, do you have law enforcement authority?" She hesitated, mouth opening and closing like she was searching for the right lie. "We're sanctioned by the board. It's in the bylaws." I couldn't help but laugh. "Lady, your bylaws don't trump state law. You sent armed men to impersonate officers. That's not a rule. That's a crime." The deputy didn't waste time. "Patricia Moore, you're under arrest for conspiracy to impersonate peace officers and attempted theft." Her face drained of color. "Wait, what? You can't do this. I am the HOA." "Not anymore," he said, cuffing her. The whole street had gathered by then, neighbors recording, whispering, shaking their heads. One of the deputies turned back to me. "Cole, you handled this clean, but next time, maybe just call us first." I smiled faintly. Didn't have time to roll out the welcome mat. As Patricia was loaded into the cruiser, she locked eyes with me through the window, fury and disbelief twisting her face. Within days, the case moved fast. Prosecutors hit Patricia with fraud, impersonation, and conspiracy. She pled guilty and got 18 months, partly suspended, 2 years probation, and was ordered to repay residence. Her 4 HOA enforcers faced felony charges, taking plea deals that brought probation, fines, and firearm forfeitures. The tow company lost its license, paid heavy fines, and had to refund every victim. The HOA board was dissolved, a court supervisor took over, and residents won a class action settlement, including my payout for harassment and damages. And as for me, I still park my truck in the same spot every night. No threats, no fake cops, just peace. Because in this neighborhood, everyone finally learned one simple rule: you don't mess with a Marine on his own driveway. The end.